group are you with?
My name is Catherine Baber, and I'm the founder and CEO of Found Roots Research and Information Services.
Okay, so regarding the Trayvon Martin case, what do you think that the prosecution could have done differently to win the case?
I believe that they could have started the case on race. I also believe that they could have hit a lot more of the evidence that would have proven Trayvon Martin's side much more effectively.
I'm Sherry Stewart. I'm with One Nation Media Services based in Rancho Cucamonga. Number two, I think the prosecution could have considered different charges going into the case, looking to go with manslaughter towards the very end of the case. I think that that probably was a detrimental move for the outcome of the case.
Okay, so I'm A. Majati, CEO of Boys and Girls Club, Vice President of the NAACP, and Vice President of the Westside Action Group. Well, I think they could have introduced all of the evidence. I think they could have treated it with more sensitivity, more compassion, and introduced the concept of race, because race was clearly a factor in this whole thing. How do you have somebody call into the police department and every description they give is predicated upon race, but then when it comes time to prosecute that person, you don't bring that issue up at all? I think the prosecution was woefully ill-prepared for this type of case. They weren't sensitive, they didn't relate to us, they couldn't connect to our experiences, and none of that was introduced. This is why people yearn for the days of folks like Johnny Cochran, because at least they knew that he understood where we were coming from. And so for the State Attorney General trying to walk in there and neutralize it, to sterilize the case and make it seem as though it's just a me versus you kind of thing, did a disservice and an injustice to that family and to that young man.
How big of a part do you think race played in the case, and what does this reveal about racism and prejudice in America?
Race was the case, and so I don't know that it necessarily revealed it because it was already out there. I think it becomes a reminder to those of us that was hoping it was better, that it has not gotten better. As a matter of fact, in many instances, it's gotten worse. And so, as it was stated in the 60s and the 70s, that the white hats of the KKK and the white robes have now been replaced by black robes throughout the justice system. You know, you had the folks that were part of the KKK, they were also police officers and judges and teachers and lawyers and butchers, et cetera, et cetera. And they hid their identity. But now, they don't wear the hoods anymore, but they still have those same ideas and concepts that they still judge us by, period. And you're talking about Florida, a deeply conservative southern state where they believe that, well, first of all, one out of 17 people carry a gun, period. They believe in that. They passed the stand your ground rule. The only person that stood their ground that day was Trayvon Martin. And don't forget that they even brought charges of aggravated assault against Trayvon and his death.
Preach.
And his death. And his death. This is amazing to me. So what it reveals to me is that not so much has changed. And for those of us that thought it did, this is a reminder to us that yes, racism may not be as overt, but it's even more, it's covert and effective. And it's so blatant now they can do it right in front of your face and tell you that your own eyes, once again, like Rodney King, didn't see what you thought you saw.
That it's still very strong in 2013. Yes, race was everything about the case because that's why he profiled Trayvon. He wasn't profiling him because he was tall. He wasn't profiling him because he was wearing a hoodie or khakis or white tennis shoes. So there's no other reason to profile him than the color of his skin.
I think the outcome of this case reveals that obviously racism in America, we still have an issue. In my mind, it's still the cancer that eats away at our fiber. It keeps us from moving forward in a lot of different areas that are really important in this country. Unfortunately, if you read comments online, if you have discussions amongst your family, friends, or even co-workers, a lot of times the outcomes of these cases are based on race, what somebody feels. Your background, your history, how you've grown up, that's very real to you. Your perception is your reality, and we need to get to a place where we can have an open dialogue and stop pretending that there is no such thing as institutional racism. Stop pretending that there are not issues with profiling, whether it be African Americans or folks of different ethnic backgrounds. We need to stop pretending that we've moved forward when we really have not. We really do still have a lot of issues with race in this country, and all you need to do is look at the outcome, look at the reactions that people are having, listen to the dialogue, the conversations that are ongoing, and basically a lot of times it's centered, it's divided on race.
And lastly, how do you feel about the media coverage of the case and how it might have affected the jury's decision?
Can't say so much about the media coverage and how it may have affected the jury's decision, because I believe that they were not, as a jury, to be really looking at what's being produced in the news. So hopefully they abided by that rule. That's typically the rule in cases, that you do stay away from publications or any type of news coverage of it, so that you can have an unbiased opinion when you're deciding the facts of the case. I just know, though, for folks that are looking at certain media outlets and reading certain publications, that they may have felt that coverage may not have been as fair or as unbiased. So the reality is that we all come with our biases, but the important thing is that we do our jobs, that we do them, certainly whether it be in media or having to sit on a jury, that you come to that with an open mind, and that you are not polluted by things that you read, and sometimes the things that you read and see are not actually accurate.
And are there any comments you'd like to make on the future of Trayvon Martin's supporters and the African American community?
I think the best thing that we can do to honor Trayvon Martin's legacy and to help his parents heal, if there is such a thing in cases like this, is to honor his legacy by keeping the dialogue about race ongoing in a healthy fashion, that we actually have some outcomes that we can actually touch and see something that's tangible that comes out of this tragedy. I think that that's the best thing that we can do to honor him, is that we contribute to our community, the African American community, in a healthy way, that we don't become, that we certainly are not takers, that we are actually contributors to our society, but that we look within ourselves and that we look to help each other, and that we don't feel guilty about doing that. And so there's nothing wrong about being African American. We are here for a purpose. God has a purpose and a plan for us, and so we are here, and so we need to look at the things that we can do to help ourselves.
Well, I watch MSNBC, who is usually pretty liberal, and so I liked their coverage of the case. I liked the commentators that they had on. So I didn't watch anyone else because I knew I wouldn't be able to take or listen to what they were saying, because I knew it would always be against Trayvon.
And are there any further comments you'd like to make about the case and the future?
Yes. I believe that we still should continue to teach our young people how to act in a racist society. But I also believe that there needs to be a re-education among every culture about the other culture, because God made us all, and He made us all different, and He obviously wanted us all to be here, so we need to learn about each other.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know how important the media aspect of this thing was, because I'm not the person to say that without the media coverage, people would have had different responses to the whole thing. All that did was just let people see the live and living color what was going on. I don't think the media coverage made white folks get Confederate flags and go outside and start parading around all happy and smiles. That's not the media. That's them already predisposed to that idea anyway. The media didn't make them do that. They wanted to do. They looked for an excuse to do so. I think the one role that the media did do, a very small role, and that's the people like Glenn Beck, Sean Hannity, and Rush Limbaugh that fed and feed into this whole racist idea. They didn't know Trayvon. They don't know his parents. They had no understanding, no more information about the situation than we did. How is it then that with the same idea, with the same facts, white, conservative, racist America can see something completely different? The only person that could tell the story was George Zimmerman. We didn't hear from Trayvon at all. And so this went to show that in this country, in America, 2013, you can still have segregated proms in the South and have local government support it. Segregated proms and say, no, we're not going to bring these black kids and white kids together. We want a separate prom. They had to have a separate prom for them. So in the South, the idea, you don't forget, Rick Perry ran for president, and at the country club where he went to frequently often, he had a rock outside and he called what? Nigger rock. Don't forget that when Rick Santorum was speaking in West Virginia during his presidential campaign, and he began to talk about Obama, he said, that nigga, and he had to catch himself because he was in front of the camera. What's amazing to me is that all these instances have been out there and blatant, and that the role the media plays, why did they expose that more? Why is the media not calling out racism as we understand it and as we see it. Why are they an active and willful participant in covering it up and making it seem like it's something other than what it actually is? So the only time we hear a story being told that we can relate to, that reflects our concerns and our ideas, is when you hear somebody like Melissa Harris Perry on MSNBC, or Reverend Al Sharpton, who on MSNBC, or Dr. Michael Eric Dyson. These are all genius and brilliant people. Dr. Julian Malveaux. We look to them because if it's not for them, nobody's telling our story. Nobody's telling our story. So this injustice system has reared its ugly head again. And my fear is that as opposed to people challenging the established order and calling them out on the racism that we see, that we again will take this opportunity to find another reason to criticize us and talk about what it is we could be doing, what it is we should have been doing, how that situation would have come about if we would have been doing this, that, and the other. But the fact of the matter is that it's not just law enforcement and the justice system we got to worry about now, but now we got to worry about regular, everyday, ordinary white people who have the right to pull you over because you look weird and suspicious to them, kill you, and get away with it.
And are there any further comments or steps you think the African American community or supporters of Trayvon Martin can take to handle this case?
I think one of the key steps is what the NAACP is doing right now, which is calling for the Department of Justice to file civil rights charges against George Zimmerman. That's one of the things that can be done. Another thing that can be done is our language and our activity has got to change. All over Facebook and all through the news, I'm hearing people say we have to respect the jury's decision. No, we don't. No, we don't. You can't respect it because it doesn't respect us. But you have to challenge the established order every step you take, every day you get up, every breath you breathe. Nobody has our experiences in this entire world. Nobody experiences things the way we do. We get up in the morning, we have to put on our armor and get ready to do battle every single day. Every day. Every day. Some folks get up in the morning and all they got to do is live, breathe, shop, work. We got to get up in the morning and prepare ourselves for what we might encounter. I couldn't even go out to dinner after the verdict because I knew it's only a matter of time. Not a question of if, but a question of when. Somebody's going to say something stupid where I would not be able to hold my tongue or my fist, and y'all would have been bailing me out.
Oh my God!
Enough is enough.
That's right! That's right, brother!
That's right.
So,
Okay, thank you.
Stay vigilant and keep hope.